Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Australia once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. Now, these guys unfortunately went bust quite recently, which is a real shame because they were a big name in their local area, but they were a very well-rounded brewery. They did lots of different styles, and their beer was always pretty solid in my experience. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I have had from them once before. It's one that I know they can do very well, and it is also one of their kind of core range beers. So this is one of the ones that you really needed to try when it came to this brewery. So definitely nice to be able to do a review of this one while there are still some cans accessible. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Australia. Like I said, we're going to go down to the state of Victoria, to the city of Melbourne, and out to the east of the city to an area called Glen, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Deeds Brewing. So this particular beer is called Juice Train. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, like I said, this was one of their year-round core range, whatever you want to call them, beers, and I actually bought this one at City Super here in Hong Kong. So this one did appear fairly regularly actually, so I kind of thought it would be nice to do a review of one of their core range beers while I still could get it. But this can, I will point out, this can is about 6 months old, so the beer still should be in fairly decent condition, but it's obviously not going to be at its freshest. But still, I've managed to do a couple of reviews of Deeds beers that were available here in Hong Kong, some of them bigger. This is the only one where the age of the can might play a little bit of an effect on the flavour and things, but still, I wanted to cover this one and pay tribute to Deeds Brewing once again. So yeah, let's crack on with this one and see what it has in store for us. It's been a while actually since I reviewed a single IPA. It's been a lot of doubles and triples and stuff like that recently. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Deeds Brewing before, and we will see if we can add some more to that at some point in the future, because I know these guys had a barrel program and some bigger beers. We'll see what we can do about getting some of those. But there's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. Remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. Just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Australian playlist along with a number of other things, and that's being added to regularly because we do get a good selection of Aussie beer here in Hong Kong. And as always, make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you about Deeds Brewing for what could well be the last time here on Rampant Lion Reviews. But yeah, Deeds Brewing, as I've mentioned already, are based in Glen in eastern Melbourne and Victoria down in Australia, and the company was founded back in 2012. So the two men behind the company are Patrick Ale and David Milstein, who studied engineering together at the University of Melbourne. But in 2003, the pair founded their own distribution company called Red Island, and this was importing a number of beer and spirit brands into Australia. But in 2012, they went on to establish their own beer brand called Quiet Deeds, and they gypsy brewed for a number of years after this. So in 2015, they secured a premises which was a former car workshop on Parran Place, quite close to the Glen train station, and they purchased their brewing equipment the following year. But they started submitting papers for their permits in 2016, but they had many different issues, and it wasn't until January of 2018 that they received permission to actually start building the brewery, but they'd originally planned to open the taproom on site at the same time. So they were actually helped quite a lot by a local petition, and in April of 2020 they were finally given approval to build an on-site taproom and kitchen, and there they had 28 taps, and it opened in April of 2021. But in the brewery they have a 2,500 litre brew kit from DME, and their first head brewer was Justin Corbett, who previously worked for hawkers, and he studied in the brewing program at Heriot Watt in Edinburgh. But in 2022, though, he was replaced by Richard Hollingworth, who previously worked for Lyons Malt and Shovel Brewery, brewing the James Squire beers, and then he also worked for Asahi at their brewery in Melbourne, and he's been an IDB brewmaster for 15 years. But these days, Patrick runs the sales and marketing, while David runs the finance and operations side of the company, and more recently they have been working to distribute their beers across Australia and brewing a number of mixed fermentation barrel sours and things like this. But the brewery suffered financial difficulties in early 2024, and they announced this in 2024, and they said that they were going to search for a new investor or a buyer. But after failing to secure one, they closed on the 24th of May 2024. And as of May 2024, when I last updated the notes for this brewery, they produced around 330 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. But yeah, that is everything that I can really tell you about Deeds Brewing for the moment. Who knows, maybe these guys will return as a gypsy brewed brand or a contract brand or something like that. It would be quite nice to see that, actually, because it's always sad to see a craft beer brand kind of go under, if you like. And it would have been cool to go to Melbourne again and visit this brewery's tap room and things. I would have been very curious, because these guys are one of the older ones in Melbourne from what I remember. These guys existed when I was they really got their tap room a few years later from when I was in Australia, actually. But yeah, as I say, it's a shame to hear what's happened to Deeds. Hopefully something comes of it and something saves them, but we'll just need to wait and see, of course. But yeah, if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website. You can have a wee look at the Untappd and Facebook, the Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the beers. And of course, they still have their social media channels as well that you can keep an eye out for any potential updates on. But yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So like I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 6.5% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. Plain silver top on the can there. This one is 375 millilitres, which I'm not sure if that's an Australian schooner or what, but yeah, you can see the Deeds Brewing symbol at the top of it there. It tells you on the side of the can here that this is where is it? Does it say? It says, yeah, all year on the side there, and there you can see established 2012. But yeah, nicely presented can, this one. 375 millilitres, as I mentioned, and it tells you that the hops in this one are Amarillo, Citra, Simcoe and Galaxy. So 3 out of the 4 are American, Galaxy being the solo Australian hop in there. Amarillo is about 12% alpha acid, it's going to give you that lovely big zesty oily orange. Citra is about 14% alpha acid, quite a bit of grapefruit, nice big sort of juicy mango-y character in there, and a bit of lemon lime. Simcoe, lots of juicy passion fruit in there, and then also Galaxy, you've got some with Galaxy is going to give you quite a lot of passion fruit, also quite a lot of pineapple and things like that, but a good little bit of grapefruit as well. But yeah, 6.5% ABV, this one, New England IPA. Let's get it out into the glass then and see what it's all about. So, there we go. It should hopefully still be in pretty decent condition. We just need to see it smells good anyway, we'll say that about it. So, I'm just going to be very careful with this one because, as I say, the beer is 6 months old, so there might be like little chunks of sediment with it, but it actually seems to be okay. Yeah, no, that's poured well. I'm happy with that. Yeah, kind of shows you this was well made, this one, because the can, it says it was canned at the end of December 2023, or it says it's best before December 2024, which probably means canned on but at that same time. It's usually a year on these. But yeah, you can see when we poured the beer that this one came out with about a finger of quite a bumpy, soapy white head, and that looks very, very nice actually. That head is going to fade away quite quickly, I will add. But yeah, you can see the colour of this one is really quite nice. I'd describe the colour of this one as being quite akin to a sort of mango juice. So yeah, I always like comparing New England IPAs to the different fruit juices because that's just what their appearance reminds me of. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. Yeah, you just have to yeah, be aware of that. But we don't really have to care about those variables when it comes to any kind of IPAs, in all honesty. But yeah, the level of haze in this one, I have to say that for a 6.5%, the level of haze in this beer is quite impressive. So remember, the level of haze in a New England IPA depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from brewery to brewery and even beer to beer. But yeah, interesting stuff anyway. But yeah, impressive level of haze in this one for a 6.5%er. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this beer. 1 or 2 bubbles going up toward the surface of it, but all in all, this beer pretty much looks as you would expect for a New England hazy IPA. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the appearance. Let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one then. So I'm very, very curious about this. Yeah, I mean, it still smells pretty decent. I will say you can smell that this beer is not in its prime freshness. You can definitely smell some of that, but it's still in pretty decent condition. So one of the giveaways in terms of age with a New England IPA is usually the OT character. Oats can always be a fairly crude measure of how fresh or old your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oats are, the fresher the beer is, the kind of more dry they are, the older the beer is. And you can smell a fair little bit of OT dryness coming out of this beer. So that's pretty apparent in this one with it being 6 months old. But still, it doesn't smell too bad, and I'm sure we'll still get a good flavour and things out of this one. But anyway, we need to keep that in mind. But yeah, when it comes to a New England IPA, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of things. So yeah, you've got the farmhousey yeasty character, the rye lean and grainy side of things. Those are a bit more prominent in American brewed New England IPAs, in all honesty. You have wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also your sweeter side of things as well. So yeah, for me, the aroma of this one, I think this New England IPA is going to, lean a little bit more toward the, I think the New England IPA in this one, it's going to lean a bit more toward the wheaty, barley malt and oaty side of things. I don't think it's going to be overly sweet, but then the sweeter ones tend to be the higher alcohol ones, just kind of the boozy flavours, in all honesty. But yeah, I think this one smells pretty nice. So for me, the fruity side of the beer is nice. It's got the big bready characters that you want, and it's also got that nice bright green component. So I think we're going to enjoy this beer. So yeah, for me, let's just break this beer down then and describe the aroma a wee bit more in depth. My brain's going a bit a million miles an hour today. But yeah, backbone of this beer is of course that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust. That jumps out of the beer at you for sure. So yeah, that's in here, absolutely. On top of that, you do get a little bit of woodiness. There's a little bit of cracker coming out of the beer. But yeah, there's a lot of like kind of fluffy and quite fresh and dense white bread in there for sure. So yeah, white bready bread crust in this one. Yeah, white bready bread crust in this one. Little bit of cracker, a little bit of wood, fluffy white bread. There's a wee bit of brown bread in this one actually. The more that you smell of it, you get a little bit of that kind of wholemeally brown bready character to this one. But in the back of the nose, you can smell a little bit of bitey wheat. A little bit of smooth wheat as well. Nice little bit of creamy oatiness in there too. Yeah, you're getting everything you'd kind of expect. There's nothing too unusual about it. So yeah, you've got wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose. You've got a nice kind of oaty creamy character to this one as well, like I said. And then yeah, it's giving you everything that you would want, in all honesty. So yeah, there's a teeny little bit of like Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch in this one, a little bit of McVitie's Digestive Biscuit as well, and yeah, all in all, that is quite interesting. So for me, yeah, the malty base in this one, it's quite got quite a lot of white bread, quite a little bit of brown bread in there, and yeah, you can smell the more that you smell of this one, I think more of the wheaty character starts to come out of the it starts to come out of the the aroma of the beer. I think your nose just kind of leans more toward that wheaty side of things. So that's quite interesting. Brown bread, white bread, a little bit of wood, a little bit of cracker, the wheaty notes in there, nice oaty character as well. Quite Quite a little bit of dryness out of the oats, like I say, because the beer is 6 months old. Then yeah, Worley's Original, and a little bit of McVitie's Digestive Biscuit as well. The yeasty side of this beer, what can we say about that? The yeasty side of this beer smells as if it's a lot more kind of soft and white bready. So yeah, a little bit of like soft white bready character in there, a little bit of cracker I guess as well. We'll see more of that in the flavour, I'm sure. But then I think we've said at this point, I think we've said everything about the malty and yeasty side of things that we really need to. So let's go on to the hoppy character then. As I've explained in many IPA reviews before, there are 3 types of hoppings to think about when it comes to your IPAs. You've got early addition hopping, which comes within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you mostly bitterness and quite a deep dank flavour and aroma. You've got late addition hopping, which comes within the last half hour of the wort boil, and that gives you a little bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma, and it gives you quite a bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that one is that's going to give you all flavour and aroma, and again a very bright green component too. So when it comes to New England IPAs, they tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping. West Coast IPAs use all 3, which is why they have that deeper, danker character to them. So that's worth bearing in mind. But yeah, with this one, it gives you kind of what you'd expect. There's a little touch of earthiness in there, there's a little touch of herbal character, but your green component in this one really leans toward a more floral, a bright floral aromaticity, and also some nice kind of zesty, grassy character as well. So the way that all of that pieces together in this one, I think is really, really nice. So gets a thumbs up from me with that green component. And the fruity side of the beer is pretty much what you'd expect if you know these hops. I'm getting quite a bit of orange from the Amarillo. I love the orangey leaning IPAs, and so I can pick up the Amarillo right away in this. But yeah, you've got a lot of tropical fruit behind there in this one too. So yeah, for me, I'm getting a little tiny hint of grapefruit, but not overly much. There's lots of passion fruit in there, quite a lot of mango. I mean, the Galaxy and the Citra are both going to give you that. The passion fruit's going to come from the Simcoe as well. But yeah, soft apricot underneath, quite a bit of juicy pineapple as well, I would have said. And then yeah, it's all about the kind of oily orangey characters with this one as well, from the from the Amarillo, tells you on the back here about the Juice Train. Our much loved 2017 release, Juice Train, brought a piece of East Coast America to Australia, a super juicy IPA that was hazy in appearance with a velvety soft mouthfeel and absolutely bursting with tropical hop flavours and aromas. Here's the good news, it still does. Packed full of hops from start to finish. We think if it ain't broke, and then it tells you a wee bit about Deeds Brewing, of course. But I think it's about time that we dig into this one then, or dive in, as we should say, dive into this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Juice Train, 6.5% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Deeds Brewing in Glen Iris, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and a big cheers to Deeds Brewing. Sad to see what's happened to them. That's still in pretty good condition, I will say that. For being 6 months old, holds up pretty well. Yeah. Really soft, easy drinking, New England IPA, this one. It gives you everything you'd want from the style. You've got that little bit of kind of bready, malty backbone in there, you've got the nice bright green component, and you've got the soft, kind of juicy, fruity characters out of this one. Of course, for those of you that don't know, one of the big differences between a New England and a West Coast IPA is the fact that these use the oat and the wheat in them to give you that hazy note. The West Coast IPAs tend to rely only on barley malt, which, the New Englands use barley, wheat and oat. But yeah, this is a really solid New England IPA. As I say, it's not often that I drink the single IPAs in Hong Kong these days, just because, the price of beer here, you're paying the same price for doubles and triples, so there is a bit of a bang for your buck element when it comes to me buying beer these days. But this is just something to think about. But yeah, this is very nice, and I think I only paid maybe $50 or something like that for this one, which is about £5 sterling, maybe what's that, about $8 Aussie? I don't know. So yeah, in terms of the price that this one was available for in City Super, as a new beer, that would have been pretty good value actually. But all in all, solid beer this one. Obviously not the craziest and most experimental of beers that you would have got from Deeds Brewing. You know, you saw that with the Japanese quad that we reviewed in the last video, the collaboration with Kyoto Brewing. But yeah, these guys are obviously were a very capable brewery. So yeah. But yeah, let's take this beer and we'll break the flavour down and describe it a bit more in depth for you, as we always do. So, middle third of the palate then. Let's do that. So, backbone of the beer. We've got that soft white bready bread crust in there. You can feel that just from the backbone of the beer. As you go further forward on that middle third of your palate, you do get a nice little bit of woodiness in there. And then yeah, so soft white bready bread crust and there, a little bit of woodiness. Then on top of that, you get the kind of Jacob's cream crackery characters for sure. And they do linger into the aftertaste a little bit with this one. So yeah, soft white bready bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, and then yeah, you have that little bit of you just have that little bit of woodiness and bread crust lingering into the aftertaste. Above that though, you get that nice little bit of kind of wholemeal brown bready character, and that does have a wee bit of graininess to it as well. It might be due to the age of the beer, I'm not 100% sure, or it could just be the nature of the Australian malts. I'm guessing, you know, Australia probably has a lot of malt that I've not really encountered too much on the channel. Of course, I'm a lot more used to the European and the American malts these days, but yeah. On top of the brown bread, of course, you do get that fluffier white bready character out of the beer. So yeah, nice fluffy kind of white bready note out of this one. And then above that, you can feel the wheaty character of the beer. So you've got that really dense white bready character, and further back on that middle third of the palate, of course, you get that little bit of a more bitey wheat. But then yeah, as you come further forward, it's got a yeah, it has a kind of smoother wheaty character to it as well. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is really nice. Yeah, I think on top of the wheat, you start to get some of the oaty character out of the beer. But the more I drink of this one, the less I feel that it's you know, I feel that it's a bit less oaty leaning, in all honesty, but it could just be because the oats are showing you that drier character, like I said they do when the beer gets a little bit older. But yeah, if you go down the middle line of your palate, you can feel there's a more creamy oaty character there, and as you spread out toward the edges of your palate, it's got a little bit more of yeah, it has got a little bit more of kind of oaty dryness in there. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is really nice. In the dead centre of your palate, there's maybe just a little touch of sweetness in there. So in the dead centre, you've got that little bit of Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch, and then as you move further out from that, it's a little bit of a kind of more biscuity character that comes out of the beer too. So yeah. So yeah, the biscuity side of this beer, I think, is really nice in this one. Yeah, so a little bit of Werther's Original, a little bit of a more biscuity sort of thing, and yeah, I think the way that all goes together, the beer does get a little bit sweeter and a little bit creamier into the aftertaste. But I think when we've said that, we've said everything we really need to about the middle third of the palate in this beer. But yeah, let's go to the back third of the palate. As I've often said, sweeter flavours will come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours further back, and also the back third of your palate is going to show you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate in this beer, but or in most beers, just at different intensities. But yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, then the wheaty bitiness there. But then yeah, the base of the back third of your palate, you've got that nice, yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got a bit of the kind of bread crusty character in there, which has a bit more of a kind of graininess to it. Above that, you've got a wee bit of a more crackery character in there as well. Then yeah, you've got the wholemeal brown bready character in there, which is a little bit lighter and a little bit more airy, and of course a little bit drier. Above that you've got the white bready character in there, which is a bit lighter, more airy and drier, of course, again. And then you can feel some of the wheaty character just kind of creeping over the top of that and giving you the wee bit of bitiness. On top of all of that though, you have the yeasty side of the beer. So let's have a little look at that yeasty character that's in this one. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, it's quite white bready. I mean, maybe in the dead centre, you've got a little bit of a more kind of wholemeal brown bready character in there. Then it's got a softer, more grainy white bready note in there around the edge. Then yeah, there's a wee bit of white bread crusty character around the very, very edge of it. So yeah, the yeasty character in this one, it does give the beer just that little bit more graininess into the aftertaste as well. But yeah, the way it all goes together, I think, is really quite nice. The malty yeasty side of this beer, it does get a little bit more. I think it might just be because the beer is a little bit older, but you do get a nice kind of lingering dryness in this one. The bread crust, the cracker, a little bit of the woody character, all of this sort of thing. So yeah, interesting stuff, but definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, it's good stuff. So let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. Green component first. Back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. Not too much though, none of these four hops are overly earthy in all honesty. Mosaic would be the one that would give you that distinctive earthiness. But yeah, as you move further forward, you get a little bit of herbal character, and you can feel that the beer gradually becomes more kind of floral, if you like, further forward. But round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, of course. But yeah, I do like how that pieces together in this one. Good green component there. Let's look at the front third of your palate in this one, and the fruity side of things. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base again, the white bread, then a little bit of the wheaty character sitting on top. Then the base of the front third of your palate is obviously the bread crust, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, and the wheaty side of things. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's look at that fruity side of things then, just to round off the flavour section. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer is kind of what you'd expect in all honesty. At the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a wee touch of like a kind of stronger grapefruit in there. That's going to come from your Galaxy and from your Citra, quite obviously. But yeah, further forward from that, you're getting a little bit of, yeah, there's a little bit of a more, you're getting there's a little tiny touch of peach in there, which is going to come from Citra. But then yeah, you've got the softer passion fruit, the juicy mango, and as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got the kind of soft apricot and the bit of juicy, yeah, the little bit of juicy pineapple sitting on top of it as well. But yeah, the way that that pieces together is quite nice. There's quite a lot of tropical fruit in this one. The aroma leans a bit more toward the orangey, zesty kind of things. But yeah, the flavour of the actual beer is certainly more kind of soft and tropical, that's for sure. But yeah, as you move into the front half, of that front third of your palate, it's got a little bit more of a kind of oily, zesty orange, and that's the Amarillo that's going to give you that, definitely. So the oily orange kind of lingers there into the aftertaste, and it comes out a wee bit more. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really, really nice in this one. So yeah, for me, I think this beer's still held up pretty well, obviously. I think it would be better fresh on tap, obviously, than it is now. And I think you'd probably have a little bit less grainy character and stuff out of it, and a bit less dryness, of course. But for a 6-month-old can, I think it's held up pretty damn well, and I've enjoyed it. It is nice. As I say, it's my first single IPA in quite a wee while, come to think of it. And as I say, this is one that I really just wanted to cover on the channel before yeah, cover it on the channel before it disappears completely. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour section of this beer. For me, the mouthfeel, I'd say mid-bodied, smooth carbonation. It's got a little bit of crispness to it as well, which I think is quite interesting. But yeah, all in all, the way everything sort of pieces together in this beer, I think, is really, really nice. So on the in terms of the IBUs and stuff like that, I think this is a fairly standard 30 IBUs, although obviously the hops in this one will have dropped out very slightly because it's 6 months old. But I think, yeah, fairly standard 30 IBU beer, this one. The malt base, like we said, there's a bit of graininess in underneath, there's a bit of smoothness in the middle and a wee bit of kind of creaminess and sweetness on top. Then yeah, you've got that nice juicy, fruity character out of this one as well. Yeah, quite tropical leaning, but you do get a wee bit of that citrusy zestiness coming out of it as well. But yeah, all in all, I think really, really nicely done New England IPA, this one, and hopefully, I really do hope there is a way for Deeds Brewing to, you know, either contract brew their beers or they'll find some other investor or something like this. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This has been really nice to try, and definitely cool to cover on the channel as well. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. This one was the Juice Train, a 6.5% New England IPA from the now defunct Deeds Brewing in Glen, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Hopefully, as I say, they find a way to survive. But thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers were from Deeds Brewing as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the future if the opportunity arises. Fingers crossed they do find some way to survive. Until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in another review. Ciao just now.